My husband ignored my doctor's orders and forced himself inside me, so now I am being forced to give birth when I am only 33 weeks pregnant. Hello everyone, my husband, 31M, and I, 24F, have been married for 4 years, together for 6, and this is the first major argument we've ever had. I am currently 33 weeks pregnant with his baby. When I was 20 weeks pregnant, my doctor diagnosed me with placenta previa, which, if you don't know, is when the placenta is covering the opening of my cervix. They told me it would likely move as my baby grew, but it never did. So, I'm scheduled for a C-section in just 3 weeks. At 20 weeks, I was put on very light restrictions, but at 30 weeks, I was placed on heavier restrictions, such as no running, no lifting or climbing, no standing for longer than 3 hours at a time, and most importantly, no bedroom intimacy. My doctor told me that we want to avoid anything that could potentially make me bleed, which could lead to preterm birth. So, I have been following these restrictions for 3 weeks, but it has been driving my husband crazy. Every single day, he bothers me for bedroom intimacy. Every single day. Each time, I remind him that I can't because of the restrictions. I don't even want to have bedroom intimacy anyway, my belly is so big, and I'm always exhausted. He doesn't really like those answers. Finally, he came to me and started talking about how doctors sometimes dramatize things for the sake of their careers and more money. He said they push for C-sections. I was like, okay, whatever, but I know that I have this condition, so obviously, I am going to follow the rules. He didn't accept that answer, and we ended up having bedroom intimacy. For a few hours afterward, I experienced really heavy bleeding, and I got so scared. I was crying in the bathroom, trying to figure out what to do. I ended up calling my doctor, and she told me to come in right away. The whole car ride there, I was sobbing, imagining that in an hour, I would be having a C-section for a baby that was only 33 weeks old. We quickly figured out that I was not in preterm labor, I was just bleeding, and as long as it stopped, I would be okay. It did stop, and I am fine. But while I was there, my doctor asked my husband to leave, and started asking me questions. She said, "This isn't accusatory, it's okay. It's just better to know if it was caused by something, or if it was random." I told her that I had bedroom intimacy with my husband. She went over all the restrictions again and then gave me a bunch of information on domestic violence. She literally put the pamphlets in my purse for me. I was so embarrassed. When we got into the car, I broke down and yelled at my husband, telling him never to do that to me again, and that my doctor knows more than he does and knows what's best for me and the baby. He apologized, and I could tell he really meant it. I've still been holding a grudge for days, and he's been groveling for days. He asked me how long I was going to make him apologize. I told him at least until the baby is born. Am I the jerk for that? Update 17.5 hours later. I wasn't originally going to make an update, because I was getting into specific details about my life, and I didn't want anyone I know in real life to find out. But I will, because, I don't know why. I guess I just got some really good comments. I posted this about 7 hours ago, and I cannot believe how many people have responded. I don't know if I could ever say thank you enough to such thoughtful strangers on the internet. So, originally, my plan was to tell my doctor and my sister-in-law, maybe my brother, though I wasn't looking forward to discussing those details with him. I rescheduled my weekly appointment with my doctor for tomorrow. I know some people said I could just walk in, but I didn't want to do that, and then have to make up some excuse to my husband. The comments made me realize the severity of the situation, and honestly, I'm terrified. So, I called my sister-in-law when she got off work, and we had a really long conversation. I mentioned in the comments that my sister-in-law and brother have never really liked my husband, especially my sister-in-law. She was very supportive and kind, and we talked for a long time. I guess I can admit now, that it wasn't just bedroom intimacy, it was great. We talked about that more than anything else. She quickly cleared up the confusion. I told her about a lot of things my mom excused because she likes my husband, and my sister-in-law was livid. I guess I always knew she would be, which is why I never told her before. She ended up telling me to talk to my doctor, and she will talk to my brother, and we will figure out what's going on. She said she will come down on the soonest flight, but my brother cannot come yet because they have children of their own. I'm content with that, and my appointment with my doctor is tomorrow. So, my husband got home earlier than usual and saw that I was upset. I was really planning on getting myself together before he came home, but I didn't have time. Still, I wasn't going to tell him anything, but he was being so kind, which he usually is. I know that's hard to believe, but it's true, and today especially, he was so kind and so worried about me. I know it was stupid to explain the situation, but I did. I don't know why. I'm just used to telling him my problems, I guess. It was a mistake, and I know that. I'm really trying not to be so naive anymore, but it's hard to switch from thinking of him as my loving and caring husband, to my husband who is hurting me. So, I told him how he hurt me, and that I was honestly scared now. He was like, "What? How?" I explained that he hurt me, by forcing me to have bedroom intimacy, by literally forcing my legs apart and telling me to calm down. He responded, "Oh my effing God, don't effing say that. That's a crime, do you understand that? Do you understand you just accused me of marital rape?" Then he pushed me away from him. I started to apologize, and he began to say it was okay, and did that thing where he acts like I'm dumb again. So, I finally said, yeah, actually, I really do understand that now. It isn't right, and it is marital rape. This resulted in a huge argument, once again. He called me an idiot for even daring to say those words. I called him an abuser, and he literally laughed. He said, "Who are you talking to? You don't know what you're talking about," and started to go on and on about things I don't know about. He insisted that having bedroom intimacy with his wife isn't rape, no matter how you look at it. I ended up trying to walk away, but he grabbed me by the wrist. I snatched my hand away, and he held up his hands, saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, that might be considered battery of a pregnant woman, if we're going by your definitions." The condescending tone is what really pushed me to the edge, and I told him I didn't want to be around him. He responded, "Fine, I'll leave." I said, "No, I want to leave. I want to be away from you." He threw the credit card at me and told me to go get a hotel then. So I did, and here I am, typing this now. My sister-in-law is on her way, but I am so far from okay. He's called me several times, but I won't answer. I've never seen him that angry before, and I'm slightly concerned about what he will do if I genuinely tell him I want to leave and take the baby. He's the one who wanted to have a child, and I was convinced. He won't let me take her easily, and that terrifies me. Every time my daughter kicks, I just want to sob. I never thought that my own baby would make me cry like this, but I am just so scared. Update 2 1 day later. This one is quick and for the people who wanted me to verify that I am okay. I genuinely don't know what to say about the amount of support I got. Thank you so very much. On August 7th, I posted my update and mentioned having Braxton Hicks for the first time. I was urged to go to the hospital. I originally wasn't going to, but thank goodness that I did, because by the time I walked in the door, I was bleeding so heavily it was down my legs. Turns out I had a placental abruption. On August 7th at 10:37 p.m., my daughter was born via emergency C-section. She is now only less than a day old as I post this, but I am being forced to deal with an attorney and all of this already. She was only 33 weeks and 5 days when she was born. She is tiny but still doing relatively well, so they tell me. She is in the NICU now, and I am in the hospital still as well. I have received lots of care, and while it is all scary and hard, seeing my daughter makes it better. I'm fine, I will be fine, and so will she. The nurses here are amazing, and the doctor told me as long as everything goes well, I get to take my daughter home in just a few weeks. As for my situation, my sister-in-law came shortly after my daughter was born, and she's been by my side all day, being very supportive. The attorney advised us to allow my husband visitation with our daughter while she is still in the NICU, so I did. I do not have any concerns about him hurting our daughter while she's in the hospital. I have received lots of supportive messages from his co-workers and his side of the family, so I am sure he is spinning the story that we are together and everything is fine. He is trying to act like that too. He's seen our daughter several times today, and I think he was in the hospital with me during the C-section, but I'm honestly not sure. He came up to my room this morning while the nurses were helping me take that first walk after the C-section. I was just emotional enough to let him in. I have to be honest and say it wasn't easy to try and hate him after all of this. I still let him comfort me, and I still cry to him. But at the end, when he said, "You wouldn't have had to do this alone if you weren't acting that way," and grabbed my face to make me kiss him, it reminded me exactly why I am doing this. So yeah, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. Originally, I really wanted to have my daughter in my home state, so that I could stay there with her, my sister-in-law, and my brother, but I highly doubt my husband will allow me to take her there. My attorney says I have options, and the options are heavily in my favor, as I did what you all suggested, and got the medical records of the grapes, including the one I posted about, and 2 more I went to the hospital for over the years, as well as a written statement from my doctor, saying that my placental abruption was likely caused by trauma and stress, for custody and things like that, but likely only here where we currently live. Honestly, that's okay. Being able to briefly hold my baby, seeing her, and loving her so much has replaced everything else in my mind. I want to be safe, but most of all, I want her to be safe. I won't do anything to put her in the situation I was in. She is only 16 hours old, and she is all I think about and will ever think about for the rest of my life. I probably won't update again, as I'm hoping they will let me spend more time with my daughter soon, but I just wanted to say that this whole post has literally changed my life, and I cannot say thank you enough. If anyone else finds themselves in this sort of situation, I want to say do not be scared to speak up. And if anyone has survived it, you are so brave. Thank you everybody. Commenter. Remember that you're only in this position, getting an emergency C-section and watching your child fight for survival in the NICU, because he raped you despite knowing there was a high chance it would harm you and your unborn child. His primary concern was satisfying his own desires, with no regard for your well-being or that of your baby. He doesn't care about you or your child, you are merely possessions to him, to be used as he pleases. Do not let this man anywhere near you. Ops response. I know this very well. Every time I see her or think about her, that's what I think about. During the C-section, they didn't let me see her, they just took her away so fast. In my head, all I could think was, she's not going to make it, and it's his fault entirely. Trust me when I say I am not going back. I love my sister and would do anything for her because I know she would do the same for me, but I never imagined she would take that literally and start doing my boyfriend. Now I hate her. I, 25F, found out a few days ago that my sister, 24F, has been sleeping with my boyfriend, 25M, for over a year. Well, he's my ex now, but we were together for 3 years. They always had a close relationship, but I obviously took it as something innocent. I don't like video games, but my sister does, so they talked a lot by text, and I thought it was about games they liked. Until I found out that, no, they talked a lot about their secret dates while I was working in college. I found pictures, videos, and a lot of other disgusting things in the chats between my ex and my sister. My pathetic sister found pleasure in asking my pathetic ex all the time if she was smarter or prettier than me. She even compared our private parts. What the hell? I just want to note that I think we're both pretty, and I think she's actually thinner and prettier than me, and even though she's an introvert, she has her group of friends, so I really don't understand where she got so much venom towards me. Our parents never compared us or anything like that, and she was always the one asking my ex to compare both of us in the chats. The first thing I did was throw all my ex-boyfriend's things out of the apartment. I insulted him in 1,000 ways, and also kept the PC that I gave him for Christmas. I didn't speak a single word to my sister for over a week, and she didn't contact me, like the coward she is, until yesterday when she sent me a message trying to justify herself by saying it was a mistake. Yes, a mistake that lasted more than a year. She said I should forgive her because we're sisters and a bunch of other nonsense. At one point, I thought, should I be the mature person in the situation who doesn't let resentment speak for her? But then I realized that I've never been that kind of person. I took my phone and wrote a long message to my sister that I would love to write here, but I am sure that I would break the rules since I called her out in every possible way and wrote a lot of personal things too. I told her how much of a failure she is, how she has always envied me, and that she needed to feel what it's like to be me for a second of her sad life. She sent me a voice message crying and saying that she's in a very weak moment mentally, but she's still with him Lamau, and that I shouldn't make her feel worse. She said she regrets it. I just reacted to her message with a laughing emoji and didn't even listen to the long voice message until the end. Was it a low thing to go after all her flaws? Yes, but it's lower to betray your sister and believe that she's going to forgive you just because you share blood with her. Honestly, I feel really good after sending her that message and feel that it was therapeutic to get everything off my chest and gain closure. I helped my sister in every moment of her life. I literally fought for her when she was being bullied during high school. I helped her thousands of times to make friends, and I even accompanied her everywhere she wanted. It is a betrayal that really hurts, and I will never forgive, never. It hurts me that she slept with someone I love, but it hurts me even more to read the things in those chats, how she enjoyed watching him compare me to her, or how she asked him about personal things in our relationship just to laugh at it. She means nothing to me now, and my parents know it. I don't even care if I'm a bad person like them. This is something I can't forgive, and I don't feel bad about my reaction. Up in the comments. My mother was disgusted, and my father was angry, but they only comforted me until I left their house. I don't know what they talked to my sister about afterward, and I don't want to ask, but they will probably cut contact with her. She just said that it was a mistake, and in the voice message, she only talked about how weak she feels mentally and that she has been having a lot of anxiety. I didn't listen to the full audio because it lasts over 4 minutes, and I was getting even more pissed off with her just wanting to be the victim, so I stopped the audio almost at the end. She never explained why she said all those ugly things about me. Everything was about her being too stressed with anxiety. Message update. As a token of appreciation, I will put here half of the message I sent to my sister. The message I sent her was really long, and I cut out the parts where I talked about very private things or when I insulted her to not make the post too uncomfortable. I was really hurt and angry at that moment, and I talked about many personal things in the text. I'm sorry if it sounds weird in English. I did my best to translate it from Spanish and had to remove a lot of parts. I'm not interested in hearing any of your excuses. I believed you when you had a problem with your ex-friend group because I really trusted that you would never do something like that, but now I understand why everyone leaves you alone, and you deserve it. What you did to me is vile, and you know it, but you didn't care because you spent a year being the disgusting side piece of my boyfriend without any shame. Now that I've found out everything, you went days without talking to me because you are a coward, and on top of that, you still don't care about what you did to me. You're only talking to me because Dad probably stopped talking to you, and you're running out of money, so you want to fix this crap so he gives you money again. You were always selfish and a jerk, but don't you think it's a lot to be my boyfriend's second woman? How little respect do you have for yourself? We're sisters. I don't even know what's going on in your head because I don't understand what's wrong with you. Girl, I read all the messages between you, and you even started comparing our bodies. You're sick. You know that I never did anything for you to do this to me, and I loved you. But everything turned out really well for you because he's with you, so enjoy that feeling and the love you two have for each other for now because you are going to be really lonely later, and you are going to go back to your cave. But this time, I am not going to be there to pity you like I did before. Stay with him. There's nothing that interests me less than fighting for an idiot who is surely going to leave you. But let me make it clear to you that you're not going to hear from me again. This ends here. We are not sisters anymore. If I see you on the street, then I'm going to cross to the opposite sidewalk to not see you. Update 1 3 months 2 weeks later. They broke up, to nobody's surprise. When all of this happened, my parents scolded my sister, and she got offended and didn't speak to them except to ask for money. She claimed she needed money to buy things for her career, but then my aunt told my parents that my sister actually used that money to buy my ex some sneakers. My parents never gave her any money from that day on. She's an idiot, to be honest. My parents started paying for us to go to a private college, and the only thing we have to do is literally study. The only thing she had to do was take her studies seriously, but she didn't, so my father got tired and hasn't sent her money for months. My ex discovered the post because he said it went viral on Facebook, and obviously, he recognized the story. He contacted me to apologize and said he knows he did wrong by hurting me like that, but that my sister manipulated him, and it was a total mistake. I told him he can shove his apologies up his you-know-what. Meanwhile, my sister and I have only crossed paths a few times, but she always avoids me because she thinks I'm going to hit her. I won't. We're not pursuing the same career, so we luckily don't see each other too much. Anyway, a few days ago, she went to our parents' house, saying that she broke up with my ex, I don't know why, and that she felt really sad and had too much anxiety. I don't know exactly what they talked about since I wasn't there, but my mother told me that she told my sister she knew what was going to happen when she slept with him. My sister justified herself by saying that they are in love, so my mother and she just argued again, and my sister left. Now she doesn't talk to anyone in the family except our grandmother to ask for money. I know my sister is not going to change her bad habits, and she didn't learn anything from this. I even think she will get together with my ex again because they're just toxic with each other, but it's her life to ruin, not mine, and I don't care anymore. The bright side, I sold the PC to a guy from Reddit who saw my post, and that really saved me from having to keep paying the dues. My ex had told me that he wanted the PC back, but I told him he should pay the remaining dues, and he said no. So the idiot wanted the PC for free even though he slept with my sister. Unbelievable. I know it's a boring update, and probably everyone wanted the update to be my sister begging for forgiveness and my ex suffering, but no, they are just two idiots who deserve each other, and nothing more happened. Up in the comments. I'm going to go ahead and not forgive them. I can do both at the same time. And no, I don't forgive my sister, and I don't want her to forget this. I don't want to see her again. In a few years, I'll remember these two idiots and laugh, but that doesn't mean they deserve my forgiveness. Update 2 months and 3 weeks later. Hi, it's been a while since my last update, but some things have happened. First of all, about a month ago, my sister contacted me from another number to tell me that her friend saw my post in a video on Facebook. Apparently, it was even translated into Spanish, Lamau. We spoke again for the first time, and she made a big fuss, saying that I didn't even change our ages or details, so her friend obviously recognized that I was talking about her since I didn't even hide my nationality. I told her that I wasn't interested in her complaints, and that she should be thankful I didn't post it on my own Facebook. She called me some choice words because I portrayed her as a SLT, but honestly, I don't regret it. She started pressuring me to delete the posts, but I told her that it doesn't make sense to do it anymore because it's everywhere, so I just blocked that number too. A few weeks after I made my last post, they got back together, but now they're not together anymore. Acquaintances I have in common with both of them usually tell me that they cheat on each other all the time, or maybe they have an open relationship, I don't know, but those people always see them with other people in clubs. I'm not very interested in that since I avoid going to the same clubs as them. It's really annoying because my sister used to not go to clubs, but now she goes to the same ones I always used to go to. She'd always criticized me for going to those environments. At this exact moment, they are not together, and my ex has been looking for excuses to see me, like returning clothes I forgot at his house, clothes that I don't really need, which is why I never went to get them. One day, he came to my apartment unannounced to bring me my clothes, and I had no choice but to let him in. And we slept together. Just kidding, lol. I just let him into my apartment to drop off the clothes, and it was very uncomfortable because he kept reminding me that he's no longer with my sister and that I am a great woman. I told him that I know I'm great, but I'm not interested in hearing about his relationship with my sister, though I do love gossip, and then I just invited him to leave my place. He even tried to kiss me on the cheek before leaving, yikes. Meanwhile, my parents don't know what to do with my sister anymore because she's even stopped going to college, although she never really paid much attention to her studies, and they're tired of spending money if she doesn't make an effort. They've warned her that if she continues like this, they will stop paying for her studies, but from what my mother said, my sister doesn't care and really believes that my parents will eventually give her money again to fulfill her whims. I really hope she doesn't get pregnant, but I'm afraid she might do that just to get my parents to support her again. As for me, I feel much better. Except for the fact that I don't go to my favorite club anymore, I'm doing well emotionally, and I've already reached a point where I hear about their crap show as if it were something foreign to me, and I was just watching two crazy clowns. I ran away from home because my mom would let my adult stepbrother use me as a child. Now after over 11 years of no contact, she wants to reconnect. I, 29F, have an older stepbrother, Chris, 42M, who who has been a nightmare since the day my mom married his dad. Let me give you a bit of background. Our parents married when I was 4, and he was 17. Both of our parents were widowed. After their wedding, we moved to the US, since my mom had American citizenship through marriage. I was born in the US as well, but after my dad passed away when I was 1, my mom and I moved back to Colombia. My stepdad got his residency through marriage, and my stepbrother did as well because he was a minor. My stepbrother wasn't a big fan of me. My only memories of him are of constant bullying. He would be left in charge of me, since he was studying locally and lived with my parents, but his babysitting mostly involved locking me in the guest bathroom or the shed outside. He would steal my lunchbox whenever he was the one who dropped me off at school. He even began to harm my pets. I have an old cat that has been with me for almost 22 years, and he tried more than once to run her over with his car. My parents never believed any of it. He's the classic golden child. My mom absolutely wanted a son instead of a daughter, so my stepbrother took priority over me. The bullying just kept getting worse and creepier. He had a long key for the bathroom, which was designed to be opened from the outside by inserting a long stick or key through a small hole in case it got locked by accident. He would use it to walk in on me while I was showering. My clothes would sometimes disappear, and I know for a fact it was him. He also started taking pictures of me while I was sleeping. One night, I woke up to him taking care of himself next to me while I slept. I obviously yelled. My parents came over, but he wasn't the one in trouble, I was. I was punished for tempting him. I was 14 when this happened, and he was 27. No one helped me, and he got bolder, until he did something that I am still in therapy for, when I was 16. It got to the point where I called my biological half-older brother, Sam, 48M, and the son of my biological father's first wife, to see if I could live with him and his wife, Sandy, during my last 2 years of high school. When Sam found out what was going on, he confronted my mom. My mom didn't care, and just told him to take me as long as he never asked her for money. That was that, and my brother and his wife became my legal guardians, and they took me in with my cat and the old family dog, since I didn't trust leaving any living creature around Chris. My parents never checked on me. My extended family on my father's side knew what happened, and they immediately got together to ensure I could finish school well and go to college. I don't know my maternal family at all. Thanks to my paternal family, including Sam's mother and her family, I got my bachelor's and master's degrees, have no student debt, and work as a nurse practitioner. I still live with Sam, his wife, and their 2 kids, and I pay a small rent. Neither Sam nor his wife expected me to pay anything, but that's the least I can do for the 2 people who have taken care of me for 13 years. For anyone wondering why I didn't move, it's incredibly expensive where I live, and Sam insisted I stay with them until I save enough to buy my own home. Things seemed okay until my mom messaged me recently. She had not contacted me since I was 18, when she told me she no longer had any responsibility for me. In this message, she sounded overly friendly, telling me how she missed me, and asking how I was doing. I was a bit creeped out but decided to be nice, telling her about what I had done since leaving her care. She seemed very interested since, apparently, she knew I was a nurse but didn't know what kind I was. She began asking me about my salary. I didn't tell her anything specific, just that it was enough to pay the bills. My mom then began texting about Chris, and how he was barely making any money due to his student debt. Apparently, Chris never finished a degree, jumping from career to career. He is now working in my stepdad's used car business as a salesman, but most of his pay goes toward his substantial student debt accumulated over the years. I told my mom how unfortunate it was, that Chris was having a hard time, and wished him luck. That's when my mom finally got to what she wanted. She texted me, saying I needed to pay his student debt, so he could finally begin to make the money he deserves like the man of the family. I just turned off my phone. When I got home, Sam was surprised, since I was usually the last to arrive. Sandy wasn't home yet. I told Sam what happened and showed him my mom's text messages. I don't think I've ever seen Sam this angry. He told me to block my mom, stepdad, and Chris, if I hadn't done so already. After talking with Sam and Sandy, I called my boss to ask for the next 2 days off. This gave me a 4-day weekend, including the days I'm normally off shift. My boss was more than okay with this, and told me to just take it easy and let her know if she could help. This backfired because the next day, my mom and Chris decided to come to Sam's house to speak to me. I was alone since Sam and Sandy were at work and the kids were at school. I immediately called Sam and told him what was going on. He told me not to open the door and that he was on his way. My mom spent the whole time screaming that I owed them for raising me and that my sweet brother deserved the money. Chris was going around trying to find a window or door unlocked. There wasn't any, since the windows have safety bars, and the only other door is in the closed garage, and one in the yard. The yard door was locked, and just in case, I locked the one in the garage too. I won't post what he called me when he saw me through one of the windows, but he basically told me they should have thrown me away when I was a baby, since I grew up to be a BTCH. He slammed on one of the windows so hard that he actually cracked the glass. Eventually, he gave up and went back to the front door, clearly trying to kick it down. I didn't have anything to worry about, since the door was a security door, but I was still very scared. Between the yelling, threatening, pleading, and insults, I finally heard Sam shouting at them to get lost. I only saw things from the window. Sam pretty much dragged them both off the porch. They got to a point where I couldn't hear, but I saw my mom and Chris pale and look scared before they ran to their car and drove off well above the legal speed limit. Sam came in a bit later and immediately went into full overprotective brother mode, asking me if I was okay. He kept apologizing and hugging me. Sandy arrived almost immediately after, and she looked like she was about to commit a felony. Apparently, Sam threatened Chris with filing charges for what he did to me when I was 16. My brother's ace, my stepdad, was willing to testify against his own son. That seemed enough to get Chris off our backs, but not my mom. Since then, it's been 3 days and my mom has sent texts, called nonstop from various numbers, and rallied a group of people who are supposedly my maternal family to harass me for money. She claims that money should legally be hers, since she's my mother, and that it's my late father's missed child support. Sam is helping me find a lawyer to get a restraining order against my mom, and I plan to take my stepdad's offer to testify by pressing charges against Chris. I can't say I can forgive him for not stopping his son, but I appreciate that he's at least trying. I don't know all the details, but Chris did something to a relative of his dad's, and since then, they've had a really bad fallout. I took my boss's offer and will be on vacation for a few more days. But here it is, my vacation days are getting eaten up, and my therapist might need a therapist after this. Thankfully, my dark sense of humor and supportive paternal family are keeping me somewhat sane. Update 1 3 days later. I didn't think I would be making an update so soon, but my mother is unrelenting. To the people who were so kind and gave me advice earlier, thank you so much. It really helps to have people show kindness during difficult times. I followed the advice to freeze my credit, and I will be getting a new phone for personal use. I'll have to keep my old phone for work for a little while. Now, to update on the situation, we are going through with pressing charges, and might pursue a civil lawsuit for the 2 years of child support my mother owes. We're not sure yet of our chances, but my brother Sam wants to go scorched earth. As for my mother, she has started a new campaign. She's been falsely accusing me of claiming that my stepbrother SA'd me. She's been accusing me of being a temptress, who tried for years to sleep with my brother, and even got a few relatives, who I just found out are my aunts, to join in, saying they were witnesses. I've never met these women in my life. My stepfather actually commented on her post, saying my mom was lying, and accused his own son of being a predator. That's how I found out what the big fallout between them was. Apparently, my stepbrother went after one of my stepfather's nieces. I don't know the girl's age, but if I'm thinking of the right person, she's about my age, and if not, she's younger than me. A lot of my biological father's relatives have also taken to social media to call out my mother, pointing out that she always claimed to be an orphan with no family, yet now she suddenly has 3 sisters. It's a mess, and for now, I'm just watching from the sidelines and being a stay-at-home aunt. My nephews love it since we get to go out for crazy shenanigans after they finish their homework. My boss has helped me with some paperwork for a leave of absence, and I should be off for about 6 weeks. After that, I'll be mostly working from home for a few weeks. It's not the greatest update, and to be honest, things are tough. But it's nice to spend time with the kiddos, at least. Also, I forgot to mention this, but no, my mom is not likely sleeping with, or in a relationship with my stepbrother, as some people have suggested. My mom always wanted a son, and I was a disappointment to her, because I was born a girl. She treats my stepbrother like he's her real son, and I think she truly loves him as a mother. She made sure to tell me how disappointed she was when I was born. Update 2 1 week later. So, this might be my last update on the mess with my mother and stepbrother, since we're finally starting the legal battles, but I finally had a good laugh. In my previous posts, I haven't mentioned much about my biological father. He passed away when I was 1 year old, so I never really knew him. I have one picture of him holding me when I was an infant. I mostly know him through stories from his family. What I do know is that he was a man of means. He had a lot of assets that he carefully divided in his will, not the kind of wealth that would mean I'd never have to work, but enough that I could live comfortably as long as I managed my finances responsibly. I was not aware that my father had made sure to leave me anything. Neither was my half-brother Sam, who is his son with his first wife. I'm the daughter of an affair partner who became his second wife. My understanding was that anything I might have inherited was wasted by my mother to buy things for her predator stepson, Chris, whom she prefers over me. He was my abuser growing up. In her words, daughters don't need inheritance, just marry a wealthy old man like I did. Well, since my mother and Chris have been harassing me lately, we drove to my dad's lawyer to get some things we need from my dad's records for the lawsuit we're planning. He's a sweet older man, kind of looks a bit like my dad, and was also my dad's best friend. When we met, he greeted me with a hug and told me how happy he was to finally meet me. His wife was there too, and she also gave me a big hug and told me we needed to have dinner at their place. Once we caught up, we discovered that my mother had been faking receipts to get money from my trust, a lot of it. Some of the fraudulent claims were even made while I was under Sam's guardianship. Despite not being the executor of my trust, she had to provide receipts for anything she claimed. She's been submitting receipts on my behalf because I'm still in medical school. I finished school in 2021. Well, her meal ticket not only got torn, but now she's in big trouble. This is fraud, and my hands are basically tied when it comes to pressing charges. She's been claiming me as a dependent on her taxes, so my dad's lawyer would refund her for her expenses. He told me there's no way we can keep this just in civil court. He had to contact the IRS and the police. It doesn't help that she's been using my social security number for things she shouldn't have. Thank you to everyone who advised me to freeze my credit. You guys definitely saved me. I probably won't be able to post for quite a while, and I'm going to be incredibly busy. I'm just mentally exhausted from everything that has happened. I wouldn't have done anything about my mom using my trust if she had left me alone. I wouldn't have even known about it, because the trust is set for me to take over with proof of marriage or graduating college. And since I didn't know about it, I never sent the required paperwork to take control. She could have milked it dry if she had just left me alone and kept sending fake information. I'm in the process of getting what's left of my trust. There's quite a bit in it, and it should be enough for me to get a house or condo if I combine it with my savings, and still have some left over to invest or use safely. I might wait a while before buying anything, though. I don't know how safe it would be, since my mom still has my social security number. Update 3 1.5 weeks later. Hey Reddit, this is more of a personal rant than a full update. Things are just starting on the legal side, so there's no real update or any information I'm allowed to share. This is more about the personal side of things, since I just came home from being harassed by my mother in a bar. Last night, I decided to go out with some girlfriends for a girls' night. My half-brother and his wife have been pushing me to go out for a while. We went to a local bar. I mostly stuck to the stools by the bar since I'm a massive introvert, but I enjoy seeing my friends have fun. So I was simply drinking and talking to the bartender in passing. Well, my good mood was ruined when I noticed my mother, thankfully alone, walking up to me. The moment she saw me, she pretty much launched herself at me to hug me and began crying, saying how much she missed me and how different I looked. I was trying really hard to get away from her, but she started causing a scene. She began begging for us to reconcile, saying she was sorry I took my stepbrother's affection the wrong way, that they both love me, and that they want me to live with them. She was loud, and people were looking at me, some even looked sorry for her, and a few encouraged me to hug my mom back. It was embarrassing and just so wrong. I finally exploded, told her to leave me alone, and walked out. That was even worse because she kept following me with 2 or 3 randoms calling me a terrible daughter. She just kept swearing Chris truly cares for me and wants us to be a family again. She even said, almost verbatim, that he found me so beautiful, that he couldn't help himself when he made love to me. I was a minor when he did that to me. He was almost 30. I just started crying and screaming at her to go away and leave me alone. Thankfully, one of my more sober friends called Sam, and he came over very quickly. He scared away my mom and took me home. I'm now 100% sure I don't want to go out. For people wondering why I never called the cops, I called the cops since I was 11 to report the abuse. I reported at 16 what he did to me, and they took his side. I don't trust them. I truly believe cops don't care about SA victims. I'm just writing this to get it out of my system. My therapist is unavailable, so Reddit is the next best thing. Update for 2 months later. Hey, it's been a while. Sorry for the radio silence. I had some people asking for updates, but things had been pretty quiet until this weekend, so I had nothing to post. This weekend, once again, my mother decided to accost me at work. I was working from home doing clerical work for the clinic I work at. I'm a nurse practitioner but took on some clerical duties to be able to work from home when the mess with my mother and Chris began. Since then, the time I could work from home has ended, so I am back in the clinic seeing patients. For the most part, Saturday went well and quietly. Sunday, however, I noticed someone who shared my mother's first name but not her last name. My mom has a very unique name, very old-sounding, and I've only seen it twice in my whole life. Of course, there's a big Latino community where I live, so I just assumed this was another person. We're from a Colombian family, though I was born in the US to an American father. Lo and behold, it was my mother using a fake last name. When I saw her, I immediately called my boss. She's aware of the situation and promptly asked my mother to leave the premises. This can be a controversial move, so to explain before any debate starts, she was there for a general checkup, not a life or not life treatment. She was not denied service for protected reasons, but because I, as a staff member, felt my safety was at risk in her presence. There are plenty of other clinics with varying prices that are open to new patients, so she can get her checkup elsewhere. This is allowed under our state's law. If she had been hyperventilating or clearly in distress, we would not have been able to ask her to leave. My mother, of course, went on a rampage, demanding to be seen by me specifically. Thankfully, my boss was not intimidated and insisted that my mother had to leave, or else the cops would be called. After a back and forth, which I watched from the security cameras, this all happened in our waiting room. My mother threw a letter at my boss and left fuming. She even pushed a lady who was walking in, though thankfully, no one was hurt. My boss brought me the letter and assured me she would make sure not to assign me any patients with my mother's first name, then went to make arrangements with our front desk. I took a break and decided to read the letter, mostly to see if it was something I could use for my restraining order. This is a translation to my best capabilities. My lovely daughter, it hurts me so much that you refuse to speak to me. I love you so much, and all I want is to recover the years we've lost. You are all I have left from your father, whom I love dearly. I know there are a lot of misunderstandings with Chris. He loves you so much, and I wish you would give him a chance to prove it to you. He always talks about how beautiful you are, and how much he wishes you two could spend more time together. He truly adores you, and I wish you would consider his feelings more. He even asked me to convince you to marry him, and I think it's a wonderful idea. Stepfather's name and I are probably divorcing, and this would be the perfect solution so Chris, you and I can stay a family. He keeps going on and on about how much he wants to raise you and his baby together. Let me know when you want to go shopping for wedding dresses. I love you, my darling, from Mom. I'm going to share a few personal notes here. I'm unable to get pregnant. After Chris's attack, I had some medical complications that have left me unable to conceive. My mother knows about it. Chris knows about it. The cops know about it. They ruled the whole thing as consensual intimacy, and because I was 16, the legal age of consent, nothing was done. I showed this to my lawyer, and he added it to the compilation of things we're using for the restraining order. Still no court date, and the cops don't consider my case risky enough to do the paperwork for a temporary order. I do have one officer who is taking this very seriously and has been amazing. It's just that the majority don't seem to care or too much on their docket to give my case time. Edit. I'm going to update here since it's only been 3 days, and it feels unnecessary to make a new post. Chris has been arrested. Apparently, he kidnapped a 2-year-old baby girl, his cousin's daughter, no less. The baby was recovered safe and unharmed, from what I heard. I'm glad she wasn't taken for long. Who knows what he intended to do to her? If I hear more details, I'll update. I'm trying to use this to get that temporary restraining order.